Hey, what's going on guys? Nick from Soho Motorsports, and today we're going to discuss Michael's supercharged air-to-air 370Z. So this is a fun one and a very common thing that happens when guys get the modification bug. So Michael came to us first initially. He wanted to get a couple bolt-ons into the car and then get it tuned. So he did our intakes, the fast tensions exhaust, and then high flow cast, and also did a tune. So that got him to about 332 wheel and 270 foot-pounds of torque. He drove it around for a little bit and got tired of it and was like, you know what? I want more power. So we discussed a couple options. We discussed going turbo, and then we discussed going supercharged. So he wanted to stick to more of the linear power band, which comes with the supercharger territory. So we decided to go with the supercharger setup. Another thing that he mentioned is he didn't want it to be too loud. So this was just right when we had come out with the recirculation kit, as you can see here. And so that will help with a lot of the noise that you are most common with, or what you mainly hear with one of our supercharger kits, the loud blow-off valve. So this gives you an option to quiet it down. So with that being said, what we did is obviously our supercharger setup with the 8-pound pulley. It's going to come with the 1050cc injectors, the 340 liter per hour fuel pump. It's hardwired, no return system. He didn't want to do anything in regards to any flex fuel or E85. He wanted to stick to pump. This car is a manual, so with it being a manual, we had to upgrade the clutch from the stock clutch and flywheel to the Z-Speed Stage 3 clutch and flywheel package, along with the C-Mac, which is a very common setup, as you heard me saying in the previous video. That's usually what we'll go with as far as any kind of clutch or driveline components. It's going to be the Z-Speed Performance. It's going to be the Z-Speed Performance components. So be sure to hit the link if you're looking for some clutch components or drivetrain components. Just be sure to hit that link. Along with the supercharger setup, we did go with our catch can. As you've probably seen by now, most of the guys that are doing these builds, they'll do that as part of the package. They'll do any kind of our force induction setup along with our catch can, just because you don't want to go boost and still stick with the stock PCV setup. It's not really good. You're almost making it like a pressure cooker. So any way you can kind of relieve some pressure out of the actual engine bay or out of the engine itself is always going to be good. It's going to be beneficial for you in the long run. And like I said, as I was speaking about this supercharger setup here, you can see this is the recirc setup. So basically what it does, instead of the blow-off valve blowing off to atmosphere like it does on the supercharger setup, it'll recirc back into the intake pipe. So it keeps it quiet. I'll pan out, I'll give you some audio of how this sounds when it's at idle. It almost sounds like it just has a squeaky belt. Nothing too crazy. And this car is quick. I know everybody's gonna say, hey, what kind of power did it make? We'll get to that. So this is one of the last V2 setups that's gonna come with our Soho intake manifold. We may bring it back depending on interest, but this is gonna be one of the last ones that is gonna be in the queue, or that we actually installed here. So this is my personal favorite as far as how it looks from the engine bay. It looks stock. The manifold really sets things off. You have the catch can, the supercharger's all tucked away. You pop the hood, looks like it should have been there from factory. So getting onto the power part of this build. So this car, like I said, it came in and put down 332 wheel and 270 foot-pounds of torque. We did two setups for him as far as power. We have a setting 1 and then we have a setting 2. On his highest setting, at just cresting over 13 pounds, he had 558 and 428 foot-pounds of torque. It's a lot of power comparing to what he came from, and I'll show you the difference as to how he came in and now he's leaving with his highest setting. And then we did a lower boost setting, or a lower horsepower setting. So on his map 2, which is going to be like his daily map, he did 509 and 395 foot-pounds of torque at 12.6 psi. So going back to how the car came in. So when the car came in, it put down 332 and 270 foot-pounds of torque. If we put it together with his highest boost setting, or his highest output as far as power, which is the 558 map, that's going to be a 226 wheel horsepower increase and 158 foot-pounds of torque increase. That's big. I mean, that's a lot of power to be gaining by doing a modification, which is going to be the force induction setup. However, the reason I wanted to put this up is I wanted to show you how it looks going from NA to supercharger. And so a lot of guys are always like, hey, do I go supercharger? Do I go turbocharger? This is gonna give you an idea of how it looks like if, hey, I wanna go supercharger and I wanna keep the same power band, I'm gonna go with this setup. And so it'll show you, hey, this is my NA one and this is my supercharger and this is my supercharger setup. So gives you a good representation of how it'll look if you do decide to go boost. And this is with the 8-pound pulley and a filtered setup on pump gas with cats. So you make your decision. So now, as we said in the previous video, Justin was talking about he liked the supercharger, he drove the turbo car, and he was like, I'm kind of on the fence now, I may want to go turbo. Let's go supercharger. Let's take this car for a drive and see what Justin's reactions are. Let's go for a drive. All right, so we are in a supercharged car now. Last time we rode together in a car was a turbo car.
Yep.
So now we're in a 2016 370z with our air-to-air and the recirc kit on pump gas. So be comparing apples to apples compared to the other one.
Yeah, like I said in the last video, guys, man, that turbo car, that stage 1 turbo kit kind of moved me towards the turbo category, but I got faith this one's going to drive me back over in the supercharged category, because man, you can't go wrong with boost, but especially the recirc kit in these things, they're so good. I mean, the street manners in this car, you fire it up, it's like a stock car. Can't even tell.
Yep. It's quiet. You wouldn't even be able to tell until you got into boost. You hear the slight little whistle from the supercharger at idle, like right now, but like nothing crazy or extravagant.
So the one thing I'll definitely say about the supercharged car and the turbocharged car is 5% to 10% throttle is a very different experience, because on a turbo car, it's like you're driving a stock car until it's in boost. On this one, this thing's ready to go, boy. Like
instant.
You gotta adjust your driving style a little bit when you get one of these. You gotta be, a little easier on the go pedal, because it's ready for it.
Here we go.
Speaking of go pedal, let's do a second rip.
So, did not expect that. Bring you back to the dark side?
Oh man, I love superchargers so much. No wrong choice, but man, you gotta love it. Like it's fantastic.
It's there. He's got good tires in this one too, so
he does.
We just did the Michelin
Cups. Yep.
Yep. So those tires are gonna do very well.
Oh man, the drivability is just like. So even with the turbo car, I mean, either way, with the right calibration on it, man, you just cruise around, throw it in 6 and just ride.
So the consensus is both.
Both. Okay. The consensus is boost.
It's boost. That
is the consensus. Like if you have to pick between turbocharger or supercharger, it's yes.
Yep.
You cannot go wrong with either one. Yep. So I mean, like the supercharger car is going to be a little bit more for the daily driver, somebody who wants to fire their car up and drive their car to work every day. Put your suit on and be very nice and tidy, or hell, supercharge your car and drive it to work and work on other people's cars. Whatever you got to do, man. But for me, like turbos are more weekend cars. It's when you want to go out, and anytime you're on the throttle, you want it to be an experience. And I mean, that's not saying that this one isn't, but it seems like supercharged cars are more suited for daily drivers to me, just because of how predictable they are all the time. Whereas turbo cars, they like to punch and take you for a ride a little bit. But
you gotta be on your P's and Q's with a turbo car.
Yeah, you really can't go wrong. There's no wrong answer. I mean, whether you're doing the V2 kit or you're doing the stage 1 kit with the new G series charger, there's no wrong answer. Just boost your car, because it's awesome. Oh, and whenever you boost your car, upgrade the low power to match the go power, because man, a good set of pads and rotors on even a stock kit over Akibono kit or something, man, that'll get you out of a lot of bad situations real quick. Like always go up with your suspension and your brakes whenever you add the horsepower.
Correct. Because if you have all the go and no stop, that's a bad day.
Definitely been there before. It'll make you pucker up a little bit, not in a good way. You only want to pucker when you're on throttle, not off of it.